let's just say IQ is astrology for racists. Like, that's it. IQ is astrology for racists. One thing that was missing from the Democratic debates, and one thing that's been missing from all of the Democratic debates so far, is discussions about poverty, and most importantly, systemic poverty in the United States and how it relates to a lot of the problems they usually talk about. We'll talk about things like housing, we'll talk about things like crime, we'll talk about things like Joe Biden's teeth trying to escape from his body, but we don't really seem to talk about what are the root causes of a lot of these problems. Most of the time, it seems to be the Band-Aid solution, right? It seems to be us chasing the carrot. What exactly is the problem? How do we fix it? Not exactly what caused the problem itself. But the thing about Eric Garner that I don't think a lot of people talk about is that situation was basically, we had an individual who was a pretty important part of that community. He was almost known as like the mayor of that area. And he was selling what are called loosies, which are cigarettes sold one by one on the streets of New York. Now, the idea there being is that the cigarettes in New York are about $14 a pack, and you sell them for $1, so you would make $20 on a $14 pack. So you're making basically $6 on one pack of cigarettes. This was something that the New York police decided that they had to tackle. This was going to be, public enemy number one. And this is incredibly disturbing, considering that New York happens to have some of the most egregious white-collar crime in the entire United States. Now, I know people are going to say the police don't actually go after Wall Street. That's not the job of the police. The police are there to basically work on the ground. They have to tackle individual crime. But I've said before on the show, the number one cause of theft in the United States is wage theft. And it's by an overwhelming margin. Wage theft is, like, by and far the biggest form of theft that goes on in the United States. And yet it's something that is barely tackled because the amount of individuals who are actually tasked with policing that aspect of the criminal justice system is woefully undermanned, I guess, underutilized. So instead they do things like this. Instead they go after individuals like Eric Garner. Something else that we've discovered, and this has a lot to do with the Human Genome Project and the incredible work they did mapping the entirety of the human genome, is that we discovered that race does not exist. It is a completely social construct. So because race does not exist, and we know this now, then any kind of differences between ethnic groups have nothing to do with inherent traits. Someone like Ben Shapiro likes to pull out that black people are the ones committing all the crimes. So it's something that's wrong with black culture. It's something that's obviously wrong with the lack of parenting or lack of fathers in black societies and stuff like that. We can look at this as a problem, not that's inalienable to any one particular ethnic group, but one that is completely explainable through systemic poverty. Historically, I mean, if you've got one group of people who started out as literal slaves, it's going to be a lot more difficult for them to climb the ladder in the capitalist system, especially because intergenerational wealth is not going to be passed down from one family to another. It's getting to the point now where apparently by 2050, if these statistics continue, the median wealth for black families in the United States will be zero. It will be $0, while at the same time, white median wealth increases, of course. So we have entrenched deep historical racism. We have systemic racism that works to suppress them, while at the same time we have this idea that somehow these individuals are committing more crimes than other people. And it really, really disturbs me that this isn't something we talk about. We don't talk about it from the right perspective. We don't talk about it from the cause of all these things. Why is it? And I know some people, and thankfully, at this day and age, we're now finally getting around the time where we can laugh at the bell curve. We can laugh at the idea of IQ. And people who talk about IQ as if it's some kind of measurable demonstration of intrinsic intelligence in certain demographics, especially between the races. Intelligence between the races has now been thoroughly debunked. And so now we can look at anyone who actually refers to IQ as being any kind of indicator of intelligence as simply, let's just say IQ is astrology for racists. Like, that's it. IQ is astrology for racists. Everything is stacked against you. Like, everything. You are born into communities that are deeply entrenched in poverty. You cannot take your kids to proper schools. There's huge amounts of drug addiction. There's huge amounts of crime. And at the same time, you also have societal racism that's stacked against you as well. So even if you are able to go and fight against all the odds, and suddenly you have gotten yourself into a situation where you can start applying for jobs, it turns out that you might have a lower chance of getting jobs if you happen to have a black name, just statistically. It's a never-ending cycle.
Did you enjoy what you just watched and now crave more nectar of the damned? Did you know that if you're watching on YouTube, you're only getting half the surfy experience? We upload all of our content commercial and censorship-free to our Patreon. Due to the general demonetization of our videos, we now upload half of our original content directly to those who can help us produce this show. Want even more nectar than that? Well, come join us at twitch.tv/TheSerfsTV, where we do weekly live streams, debates, interviews, AMAs, and more. If you're an Amazon Prime member, you can help support our show 100% free by subscribing to our Twitch channel. So come join us, be merry, and know that your support is helping us do great things.
Like pay rent and eat.
We would first and foremost like to thank our god, Nicholas Marks. We worship at your temple. We would like to thank our monarch, Elsie Hupp. Your generosity has made this entire thing possible. We would like to thank our lords, Ricky Pilgrim, I'm Raft, and Michaela Schmidt. You are the pillars of our organization. To our Knights of the Surf Table, Paul Parfit, Daniel Kahn, Fair Tahan, Clement Chutskoff, Schizosaurus, Josh Mickelson, Dr. Zayas, Cooper Pilot, Andre Lynn Epperly, Dylan Bith, Terry, Todd Buckingham, Jed Lewis, Todd Lajeunesse.